Hello, listeners. We're back. I'm AJ.
I'm Alex.
This is NTVN, New Tech, Vintage Nerds.
And in case you're wondering, that's us.
What are we going to talk about today in our first maiden episode?
Woohoo! So, I've been actually quite busy with actually two topics that have eaten up my time lately, and one topic is WLED, and the other one's Gridfinity.
Nice. That's all in the home stuff, home automation and organizing.
Yeah, well, it's not home automation, right? Gridfinity isn't anyway. Um, but it is it has to do with organizing yourself and organizing your office and
Yeah,
well,
good stuff.
yeah.
So, and we got another topic, my topic, audio volume in Home Assistant. Don't you hate it that every audio source within an Apple TV is different? So I got a fix for that, but we're going to talk about that later on. Let's first start with WLED.
Yeah, well, in case you've never heard of it, which is likely, so WLED is an open source project specifically for ESP32 chips or ESP. There's another model. I can't remember the number. But I'm using ESP32 chips, where you can load the software onto the chip just via USB on your laptop. It's actually it's ridiculously simple, and when you've done that, you can connect an addressable LED strip to that and make it do all sorts of wonderful effects. But if you're not into that, you can just use it as a plain old light strip. And the funny thing about that is, specifically if you select fairly modern LED strip with fully addressable individual LEDs, and I mean that sounds expensive, but they really aren't. You can actually create a very nice lighting effect, which is even better and even brighter than whatever Philips Hue or Govee or Lefex or whatever brings out, and it is at a fraction of the cost. So if you go to Amazon and you search you search ESP32, um, and there are a couple of models, but there are a few links on YouTube as well on how to do that, what components to select. Generally, it will set you back about €5 or so for a single chip. And then you go search for a light strip. So I'm using light strips from BTF Lighting, which are they're probably made in China somewhere, but they're fairly constant in quality. And I think I recently bought two 1 meter strips to actually light up two bookshelves that we recently bought. And I think that set me back about €25 for the two.
Mm. But why did you go the WLED route? I mean, you could go for one of the main already put together strips.
Yeah. A couple of reasons. First of all, um, we were not sure. So we were creating a TV wall, and part of that TV wall was supposed to be at least two bookshelves, one on the left, one on the right. And I wanted to integrate lighting into that. We were not sure what size or what length these bookshelves were going to be. Um, but generally, well, they'll probably be somewhere around 1.20 meters in length. So if you start searching for an LED strip that is 1 meter 20, they don't exist, right? So you get a meter or you get 2 meters. The thing is, you can't cut those at just any length.
No, you got to cut them at certain intervals. There's
Exactly.
soldering points, but there you
And
can cut.
honestly, Philips Hue doesn't like you to cut it. They just want you to use it as they deliver it. And many others do as well. I think the Govee one is actually cuttable, but I don't know. So the LED strip, the individual addressable light strip that I bought from BTF Lighting, I can cut that at any LED. Doesn't matter. So I can buy one from 2 meters and I can cut it to 123.5 centimeters, and that will be it, right? Um, and it will exactly fit the purpose that I aim it at. So that is simply ideal. Second, the reason why I looked at it was if you look at the cost of it and the amount of effort that you've put into to make it work, um, it is ridiculously simple and it is ridiculously cheap. If you want to buy a proper gradient LED strip from Philips Hue, I don't know, it's 70, 80 euros.
Yeah, I think so.
This was like, well, one chip, one LED strip was like 20, no, not even 15 euros.
Yeah. So, did you have any issues when you started using those WLEDs? I mean, it's like a chip. You have to put some wires on it and LED strip.
Yeah,
But
well, first of all, I had to brush up on my soldering skills because I'm not a very good solderer. So uh, um, I tend to, I don't know what the English phrase for it is, but
noob.
I'm no, not really, but it's not very good. So I bought some new soldering gear, and that honestly helped quite a bit. Um, but I did run into some issues there. Well, first of all, the first thing that I ran into was, so what power supply do you use? Oh, I forgot about that. You do have to purchase a separate power supply there. I had a couple of power adapters, actually, a 3 amp, 5 volt. I'm using 5 volt LED strips. So I had a 3 amps a power supply, I don't know, left over from some device that I probably tossed. And well, I decided, well, you know what, can just use that one. So I cut off the plug and soldered it to the chip.
Yeah.
That was not a good idea because that power supply was, well, not very good, probably. Um, the result was that the chip was very unstable in the Wi-Fi. So it would drop out at any second, and it was very hard to reach, and it wouldn't reply to ping requests, yada yada yada. And I got a proper power supply from Amazon, which I think is also about 10 or something like that. Um, which was I think a 6 or an 8 amp one. I don't know, can't remember. Um, and I soldered that one to it, and all the problems went away.
All the problems didn't something start
Marvelous.
to smoke?
Yeah, well, that was my soldering skills again. If you do not have it properly connected, you may become winner two, um, and get a very bad smell with that as well. So that wasn't a very good one. So that was honestly, that was one of the things that made me think, okay, so I have to make sure that this is properly soldered
Yeah.
first of all, and I have to really test drive this because if you take a LED strip, for instance, with, I don't know, 270 LEDs, and you hook that up to an 8 amp 5 volt power supply, and you turn that up, that gets hot.
Yep.
That really gets hot. And if you do not configure that properly, it's pretty easy to start a fire.
Yeah. Oh
So
yeah.
there is this drawback. You have to be aware what your power supply can handle safely.
Yeah, but ar-
Exclamation mark safely.
I would argue that the same goes for anything that doesn't have a proper certification, like from some websites from mainland China. I mean,
They're all made in China, but
yeah,
so what you need to know is that if the power supply rates at 8 amps, don't configure it for 8 amps because it will burn down. Right? Configure it for 6 amps, and you'll probably be okay. And that's what I did, and that was actually the biggest hop I had to take, and the biggest realization that I had to have. Okay, so don't do that. Make sure you're on the safe side. Make sure you use proper cabling, because if you start to push 8 amps through very tiny wires, they tend to get very hot.
yeah, they
Um,
will melt.
meaning exactly meaning that the wire isn't suitable for that kind of power, so you need a thicker wire. That's one. What I did notice, and I'm not sure if that is a problem with my local Wi-Fi or a problem of the specific chip range that I have, but they do have a problem with the Wi-Fi reception. So what I did right now is actually I had a couple of access points left, so I tossed one in my office just below the WLED chip, and now ping reply is fine, and I can reach it in a jiffy. But um, it does have some issues there, and that is the last drawback or the last thing I'm going to test out. I just ordered a couple of Wi-Fi antennas at Amazon for about a fiver, and I'm going to solder that to the ESP 32 chip to see if that solves the problem.
Okay.
Um, Other than that, I'm actually quite impressed with it. So if you dive into it a bit, it's for instance fairly easy to not hook up one but two light strips and make them in work in sync. So this is what I did. Um, and I've got it working in my office right now. It's actually working wonderfully. Um, I do have to say that the lighting effects that come with WLED are very wonderful, and get very annoying after a minute or two.
Yeah, they do.
Um, yeah, that's
I also have them at a stable color, one color most of the time.
yeah, yeah. But and here's the best part. I just it was a breeze to hook it up to my home automation. Um, and once that was done, it just it reports itself as a light in my home automation platform, which is Homey by Atom, and it just it states at the end of my working day, turn off all lights, and they just turn off. And in the morning at 9 o'clock, it states turn on all the lights, and it just turns on. And the color is wonderful. I'm very happy with it. And what I love about it is it is so easy to put together, and it's so easy to customize. All the things that you cannot do with all the pre-manufactured light strips. It's a breeze with this stuff. Do you know
Yeah.
what you want to hook it up at the top of your kitchen cupboards? You go and do that. Um, is your kitchen 3 meters and 25 centimeters? Well, you just cut it at 3 meters and 25 centimeters, and it will fit. Um, and that is it. And it's still an LED strip. So if you do not turn it up to full brightness, which is really bright, by the way, um, it's eye squinting bright. Um, you probably don't need that. I mean, if it's just accent lighting, you can configure it to be at 25% brightness, and that will still be plenty.
Yeah. Did you already look at the segmentation of WLED? Like you can
Um,
make different segments?
yes, I did have a look at it, but I've decided to not use it in the current projects. The next project I'm going to do with WLED has to do with that wonderful on-air sign behind me, which is not working as it should. Um, but it's fairly easy to have a light strip in form of a mat with 32 by I think 32 by 16 LEDs or 35 by 16, I can't remember, which should fit in there quite wonderfully, and I should be able to have that color and the on air addressed wonderfully the next time. Well, after I've done that, obviously.
Yeah.
Um, but that should work a lot better than the current light strip that is tucked in there in a very unnatural manner.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I have a WLED as well. For the viewers, I didn't place it in its place to be. Actually, I have a
It's that
IKEA.
spaghetti behind you, isn't it?
Yeah, that one.
Yeah,
Where is it? That one.
yeah.
So it's meant to go into that cupboard, and every segment of that cupboard should have segment of WLED. But like more of my projects, well, it works now, so don't touch it again. Perhaps something when I'm 65. Wait, 67.
Wasn't that a song when I'm 65? Anyway,
Yeah, yeah. So no, probably will finish it someday, but not today.
what I did do, and I will recommend that to anyone who is actually going to start fiddling around with WLED. Um, Also on Amazon, buy yourself a pack of plugs. They've got wonderful uh, um, three what's it called? Three strings. I don't know, I can't remember.
Three strings.
Three wire plugs,
Ah,
which click together very easily. You can solder them very easily, and you can make extension cords out of that. And that is a lifesaver because, well, if you hook up to bookshelves like I did in my office, um, that is a pain to solder and connect together. You don't want to solder on your bookshelf, so it's
yeah.
easy to just create an extension cord, a little extension cord from like I don't know a half a meter with a piece of wire and two plugs.
Mm, that's interesting. For my hallway, I prepped everything for LEDs. We just moved in 6 years ago, so not a problem.
No
Um,
pressure.
so, but that would be a good idea. The problem I had was soldering the wires to the LED strips was uh, a bit hard. Not only because the soldering, but also because the gauge of the wire that was needed for the power. But with proper connectors, I probably can do that more easily and more safely.
So I think the pack of connectors was like nine euros.
Yeah.
And
So if you still know the exact ones, then we can put them in the show notes. BDF lighting.
yeah,
And
sorry, they're
how
just
beautiful
reliable.
life is.
You just get these wonderful, and if you look at YouTube you can just see what I mean. They are just wonderful, like these two plugs, and you just click them together and that's it, and they've got all the wiring you need. You can pull them together, if you can put them apart and just really solder them into it if you want to. I mean, you can deconstruct that and solder the wires in there. They come with an attached wire, so I actually attached it to the wire and just covered it properly. But well, whatever you like.
Yeah, and
But
it looks already pre-tint.
yes,
On,
yes, they are, but they are very short. So the
that's short. Yeah,
camera doesn't focus. But it is a very good way to work with them, and they are they connect very securely. So works for me.
interesting, interesting. Well, like I said, if you still have the links to the Amazon purchases, then we can put those items in the show notes.
I will.
Cool. Uh, let's talk about something else. So cool stuff with WLED. I mean, it's pretty obviously that you can use it in your smart home. Um, nice segue to the next topic of today for a real smart home, and that's an automatic volume for Apple TV or uh, actually any media player in a Home Assistant. One of the things that I found very annoying was that when you play something on Apple TV, if it's music or if it's Spotify or YouTube, every app, every stream has its own volume. So if you think I'm going to switch from Netflix to music, then you have to um, turn down your volume because music is always louder in my experience than a movie or a series. So what I did was create a script in Home Assistant where I detect which applications being started on the Apple TV, and based on that, I'm going to control the volume of my amplifier. So if Netflix starts, the amplifier switches to, like, say 50%. When I play music, it switches to 10%. And if I play Disney Plus, then it will reset back to like 50%.
So
So
the volume is based on the app that you start.
yeah, because
Right.
I cannot detect how hard the volume is that comes from the application, but what I can detect is which application is started. So in my Home Assistant, I have a couple of helpers, they call it in Home Assistant, which basically have the audio volume for each application. So Netflix is 50 or 0.50 because it's a volume, it's a metric between 0 and 1. 1 is 100% and 0 is 0%.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
So, yeah, it's math. But I don't know why. It's just that's what it is. So,
Paul Hayward would say home assistant.
yeah. So when I detect a switch from Disney Plus to Netflix, he reads the Netflix helper, which stored the volume that I want to switch to, and then it controls the receiver or the amplifier to set the volume to that what was in the helper. That sounds complicated. Well, it
It
actually
does.
is. I have for each application, I have a helper that starts the volume that I want it to be. Um, so if you use like 15 streaming apps and a couple of music apps, then you have even that many helpers that
So
control the volume.
these helpers are those ones that you create,
Yeah,
or on? Okay.
yeah. So a helper is like a variable. You can set a variable to a certain
All
value,
right.
and he reads that variable and then use it in the script or automation actually. Um, m- First, I had all if then statements. If it's Netflix, then do that. If it's Prime Video, then do that volume. If it's Disney Plus, do that. Um, that's a bit tedious because it's all if then statements. And if you have a new application that you want to control, like a game on the Apple TV, then you have to put it into the automation. And then you have to put in the volume um, in that script. So if I want to change the volume later on for that specific application because it was too loud or too soft, then I had to go back into the script, change the value, and then it would function properly. So what I did was putting all that nonsense out of the script and into helpers variables. Um, and then read the switch if the application is started. Check if there's an helper for that. If not, then the volume is like 10%. If there's a value for that, then set it to that value.
So how did you come up with the values?
Trial and error, basically.
Okay. So it's
So
personal.
yeah, so I've been using the Apple TV a long time, so I know now what volume the receiver needs to be. So for Netflix, it's around, I believe, 45. Yeah, well,
0.45.
0.4. You're correct. Um, so for Disney Plus, I started with the same value, but I noticed that it needs more volume. So that's, I think, 48, 0.48. Yes, you're right. Um, no, I know you're not saying anything. But for music, um, I switched to music, and then it was, um, well, killing my ears actually, because the volume for Netflix, when you play audio on that, like music, it's too loud. It's, well, the neighbors, we live in a single detached home. The neighbors could hear the music, so that obviously was too loud. So I put it to 10%. So it's really a trial and error. So I start with a value that I know for streaming is okay, and then I tweak it to the correct volume. And I made it into a dashboard in Home Assistant, so that I don't have to go back into the back end of Home Assistant to tweak the values. I just put a slider a bit to the left or a bit to the right, and, well, tweak it like I want it to. So it's very interesting. I mean, that's for me what a smart home is, what home automation is. It's like making sure that everything aligns with you, and not that you have to do some things for the Home Assistant or for your home. I mean, the whole idea of using a tablet to control your home, I
That
don't.
means your home automation has failed, in my opinion.
Yeah, then I'm the home automation. I don't want it.
Exactly.
It
Yeah.
needs to.
Home automation is what it says. It's automating
Yeah, it.
home stuff. It needs to be automatic, not
Yeah,
manual, not extended manual by giving you a virtual button instead of a physical. It
yeah,
just needs to
correct.
work. If
Yeah,
that works for you in the right manner, then your home automation is successful.
yeah, exactly. So this is one of those things that make it more automatic, more automated. I mean, if I switch a channel, if I switch an application, it tunes automatically the volume, and it's a one of those annoyances that's now gone.
I have to say I haven't noticed it. Then again, I only recently bought a new Apple TV, and it's not hooked up to a receiver, but it's hooked up to actually a Sonos Beam. And I have to say I haven't experienced a very insane volume switching, or that it is very loud or very soft, or but that may
Yeah,
have to do with the location and the positioning of the soundbar.
yeah, that might be true. Also, it differs per application. So Netflix and Disney Plus and Prime Video are all around the same bandwidth.
Oh, and I don't have as much streaming services as you do.
Well, these were the only three I wanted to name. So, um, but
Hmm.
when you switch to music, like Apple Music or Spotify, those are normally louder. So I'm not sure if you use that already on Apple TV.
No, generally we play music over Sonos, which is all throughout the house. And the Apple TV is, well, it is hooked up to the Sonos soundbar, but it just plays there and nowhere else. And our TV in the living room is just hooked up to a receiver and doesn't have an Apple TV. So over there, it's not an item.
Yeah. So yeah. Well, if you want to know more, I written it all down in a nice article, so I will put it all in the show notes. So then we got a third topic, like Gridfinity. What
Oh yeah,
is it?
ladies and gentlemen and cyborgs, to quote Zach Friedman correctly. Um, So if you've never heard of Gridfinity, Gridfinity is it's I'm not sure, it's not a storage solution. It's just a way of organizing all your stuff, and this has been developed by Zach Friedman, and he actually made it open source so that we can all benefit from it. If you want to know the whole story behind it, Zach has made numerous videos on YouTube about it, but basically it comes down to this: you have a plastic grid that you print with a 3D printer, um, and that plastic grid is designed in a way that it can you can make it fit everywhere, in your drawers, on your desk, on your bookshelf, in your garage, wherever.
Mm,
And then you can print inserts, so cups or uh, whatever form you want. There's probably a design for it. Um, and funny enough, if you go look at thanks.com, you type Gridfinity, the amount of stuff that you then see you can print is insane. So, what I love about this is um, I can finally, well, not finally, but I can use my 3D printer for something useful. Right, it helps to organize all the stuff that I have in my office. And honestly, I'm not a very organized person generally. It's quite messy in here generally, and this honestly has helped me an insane amount in just sorting out all kinds of stuff in my office, preventing me from tossing it everywhere and losing track of what I've got and what I haven't got, and what I ran out of and what I need to buy more from and more of, and also all that kind of stuff. But also, and I really like that. It helps you just to store stuff in a logical manner,
mm.
and it's the amount of inserts and models that you can find on thanks.com or Thingiverse or wherever. I mean, Thingiverse actually has a complete separate section just on Gridfinity. If you look that up, everything is in there. It's amazing. So if you've got a 3D printer and you're looking to organize some stuff, take a look at this, because this is insane.
Well, what's the most annoying thing that you had in your drawers? What you're now getting rid of because of Gridfinity?
Nuts and bolts,
Not symbols.
nuts and bolts, and all kind of little fiddly things. I had these plastic boxes with well, you know them, right? When you order something from Amazon or eBay or whatever, you get a plastic box with an assortment of, I don't know, screws, bolts, fuses, whatever.
Yeah.
Excuse me. And in the end, what always happens, it falls on the floor. It doesn't close properly. You stack it upside down, or someone else stacks it upside down, and suddenly the M2 bolts are in the M3 section, or vice versa,
Never
or the
happens to
washers are completely mixed up, or the bolts, the M12 is in the M16, whatever.
Yeah.
It's getting messy. It's getting ridiculous to find something, and this is just insane. I just print a specific sorter with 4 different sections, and you just toss it in there. Um, you lock it into the grid, and it just is there, and you can close the drawer where you printed it into. It won't fall out. It won't fall over. It won't fall out. It won't mix. It's amazing, and I love it. And I've now there are specific inserts. For instance, I've got an IKEA closet. Um, or I don't know what it is called. We call it
Colors.
Kallax, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I got one as well.
yeah, and it has drawers, so you can have a drawers insert in there, and there is a specific Gridfinity fit specifically for that drawer. It fits exactly into that drawer. It's in 4 pieces or 1 piece if you've got a large 3D printer. I don't, so I had printed it in 4. Um, but the print is very very quick. Generally, I print a 6x6 grid for Gridfinity in 1.5 hours,
Hmm.
and then I could start placing cups on it.
Yeah, exactly. So you put nuts and bolts in it. I saw a picture of it earlier. You
Nuts
got
and
some
bolts,
wires in it,
fuses, string tubing,
batteries.
the wires, batteries. I've got my wire spools hooked up to a specific spool cup that actually holds 3 in a row, and I had them before that. I just had them stacked on top of each other, and they would roll off, and they would get mixed. And when I would want to have a specific piece of wire, I had to untangle them. It was annoying, and now they're sitting next to each other. They all have their individual hole where you pull the wire through. I just pull at it, cut off the section that I need, and there you go. Bob's your uncle. That's it.
Yeah,
Right? Wonderful.
so it's more neat. It's more efficient. I mean,
Yeah,
you can grab something when you need it, and
and it
it's not
prevents me from
cluttering
making a
your.
mess everywhere.
Yeah, exactly. So, what do you want to print next on a Gridfinity grid?
So I've got some stuff left that I actually want to integrate into the grid that is now on my soldering desk. Um, so if you look it up in Thingiverse or wherever, there is almost a custom insert for virtually anything, tools or whatever. And I've got this little Dremel burner, and obviously it's got a Gridfinity, of course it has, and that's the one I'm going to print next, so I can add that as well. I'm not going to enter all my tools into the Gridfinity grid because I also have a magnet strip over my soldering spot, so I can just clip on any tools that I want to have immediately handy. And that is, in my opinion, more efficient than putting them in a specific holder just out of my reach. So I will not do that. But all the other stuff, the soldering tin or the wires. I'm just looking at my soldering corner there. The Exacto knives are in there. The batteries are in there. I don't know. It's name it, and they've got an insert for it, and you can use it.
Yeah, also saw one for the SD cards for your camera. So I want to
Yes,
print that as
indeed.
well.
Yeah. Um, if you have a drawer in your office that is unorganized, and face it, everyone's got those drawers. This is the way to get it organized.
Nice. That's going to be a nice sound bite for the intro. So neat, neat. I see that we're already past the mark, like 45 minutes into it. I think it's going to be time for slowly going to tips for our listeners. I mean, we've given all tips like auto volume, like Gridfinity, like what was the first topic? It's 45 minutes ago. So,
WLED.
WLED, yeah. my brain doesn't go that far back. So, um, you got a tip for our listeners?
I've got one top tip actually. While I was working on WLED and practicing my soldering skills, I actually destroyed my wire stripper.
Whoa,
Well, it was, I don't know, 20 years ish old, and it just disintegrated. So I threw it away, and I was actually looking for the same thing, basically. Um, and while browsing through Amazon and through Bol and well, all other kinds of online shops, um, I came across, I think, a video from someone who said, "Look at this, and this is a Irwin wire stripper, and I'll have a link in the show notes. But basically, it's this thing, and I honestly, it I've never seen this one before. Well, not before I ordered it anyway. It's amazing. I think it was about 20 or 30 euros. I can't remember. But this is so much better than the one I had before, or just trying to do it with an exacto knife or a
yeah,
pocket knife or your teeth. Don't do that. Don't don't
no, no,
don't,
no,
don't
no.
strip wires with your teeth. Don't do that. It's very bad for your teeth.
It
Um,
sounds like you tried it in the past.
oh yeah. Specifically, if you don't have any stuff handy, right? This thing is amazing. I think everyone needs this. Basically, if you do anything soldering, it strips the very small 2022 gauge wires, but it also just does the standard power wires. It's an amazing part of kit, and you can't live without it, basically. So get one.
Nice. Well, I want one. So my tip is actually also in the tools department. Um, I have a lot of tips, but I'm going to spend only one today. Um, I purchased the screwdriver from LTT. I'm not sure if you saw it already, but man, how cool can a screwdriver be? I'm serious. When I purchased my computer or the parts for my computer, I had to put it into each other, and I said, well, it needs obviously a good screwdriver. And it was more like sponsoring them instead of expecting a real cool screwdriver. But man, I'm not sure if you already seen it. It's been out for a while, but it's when you turn it's you don't turn the complete handle. It's a ratchet screwdriver, and you can fine tune the screws with the with the shaft. So if you're in a computer working on screws, then you can easily turn it by your fingers, and only if you want to make it real tight, then you use the complete handle. So I mean that's really amazing. I'm gonna steal that one. Um, so and it's also got a compartment for short bits. So one of the things I hate about screwdrivers with bits is losing the screwdrivers.
You
I
always lose
mean,
them.
I can put them in a Gridfinity box, obviously, but what's more easy than putting it in the screwdriver itself? So it's a pretty expensive screwdriver, but then again, um, I don't have to search for my bits. I really like it.
How much is it?
I believe it was 80 euros. So
Oh
it's
wow.
pretty expensive for a screwdriver. On the other hand, if you look at the real good brands, they're in the same price range.
But that's imported, right?
That's imported, yeah.
Right. Because we're not in the US or Canada
No,
for
no, somewhere in Europe.
specifically for Linus.
Yeah, no, but man, it's I've seen screwdrivers for 250 euros. Uh, I wouldn't pay it. But then again, if you daily drive a screwdriver, I mean, your phone can cost a lot, so why not a real good screwdriver? So
Well, in all honesty, I don't daily drive a screwdriver anymore, but I will have a look at it. It's interesting.
it's a great one.
All
So
right.
with that, I think we're at the end of the episode.
All right. Good stuff. Hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah, I hope you enjoyed it as well. I mean, it was good talking to you, like we never talk. Um, so, up until the next one, and please subscribe to all the channels you can, and let's make sure that you ring that bell or like or whatever it is in the podcast app, so we know that you like this podcast. If you have any questions, please put them into the comment fields under the episodes or on YouTube, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you, and
And
bye bye.
bye.